Well, good morning, folks. You may be wondering, well, Sean, are you going to do another video? Well, I guess we kind of have to. As you'll notice, when we took our 1985 FLHT for a test drive to get an air cleaner at Harley Davidson, we discovered a leak. It's a very common leak on these, and this is the reason why most Harleys leak oil. And what we're going to do, put that right there, is we're going to try and address it. Now, I hope this is helpful to people. Now, I want you guys to understand, we have a motorcycle hoist and we have some tools here, but I'm trying to keep this simple so that anybody at home can maintain their motorcycle, and not just Harleys. We're going to be covering other things too, and cars even. A little paint work, a little auto body, whatever it takes to keep our stuff on the road here. And it's a good hobby, keep you out of trouble. Now, this is a common leak on these Harleys, and I swear Harley Davidson must make $1 million a year just selling this outer primary gasket. And they can leak. It's, it happens. But 9 times out of 10, that's not the problem. That's wishful thinking. The seals we're going to be going after, and on this bike, it's definitely the case. I've already checked it out. There's ways to diagnose this. We'll get into that in a bit too. We're going to take a look underneath the motorcycle here. And if you'll notice, right in there, it's all wet. The oil is actually coming from the back side of the case. And what it's doing is running down and then down the case and dripping to the lowest point on the bike, which is that outer primary case on the other side of the frame rail here. And what that usually indicates is that the seal is gone on the main drive or the shifter seal, which is right here. Let's see if we can get in there. Right here, there's your shifter rod. This is your actual shifter. And at the base of this, way down in here, where it goes into the transmission, is a little, $2 seal that's going to cause us all kinds of grief and frustration if we don't change it. There's a main seal between the inner primary case and the main drive. Oh, sorry, fire truck went by there. And we're going to do all of them. So it doesn't matter which one is leaking, but there's ways to check which one it is, and you can do that. And one of the ways is to drain the oil out of the primary through the drain hole right there. That's not an Allen key, that's not holding the case on, that's actually the drain for these old bikes. You drain the fluid out, and once it's completely clean, you put a paper towel down here, or rag or something, and you come back the next day, and if you still find it leaking oil here, what it's doing is there's the main shaft where your clutch basket sits, and your main drive also sits on the same shaft. It's actually 2 shafts, and one runs through the center of the other. And what's happening is there's a seal on that shaft, and it's leaking out of the transmission into the primary, and then it'll come out this drain hole. So if you find that you've got a puddle there, well, it's your shaft seal that's leaking. There's one behind the main drive, and we're going to be getting that one as well, because better safe than sorry. It's a lot of work to get in here, and we're not going to do it twice. So if that main shaft seal is leaking, it will actually take fluid from the transmission, deposit it into here, and then out this hole. Even after you've drained it, it'll continue. You fill up the transmission, it'll end up coming out here. Now if the puddle's a little further back or coming off the case here, like this one is in the back, it's either the shifter seal or it's one of the main seals. On this one, it would be the 5th gear seal, right behind the main drive, which we're going to have to take off, and that's a bit of work. And thank God, Winnipeg Harley Davidson, and thank you Don and all the boys there, were kind enough to borrow me not only the puller for the bearing race, which you're going to see, we'll get to that. There's the bearing race puller that we have to get off the shaft. They also got me this right here. Now this is a specialty socket. There's a big nut holding that main drive on, and this is the socket that fits over the shaft to get to that nut, and this is made just for Harley Davidsons. This is the only use for this tool in the whole wide world, is to get that main drive off. And I could have got one of these. It would have took a month to get here, and I want to get Carl on the road a lot faster than that. Let him ride this thing. Obviously I've got it running perfectly, so now it doesn't really matter how well it runs if it won't hold fluid. So thank you Winnipeg Harley Davidson, thank you Don, thank you all the boys for borrowing me this socket. Had to grab it in the afternoon. They're closed now, and I've got to get this back to them first thing in the morning, so we're going to get this done tonight. Put that back. Good Lord, I better not break their tool. Don's like twice my size. I think he's about 6'2", 6'3". Pretty good guy. Bigger than me anyway. I don't want to piss him off. So we're going to be taking off our starter, which is right here, bolts to the back of the primary. We're going to be changing all the seals while we're in there. We've got this complete kit. Where did I put it now? This is a complete gasket seal. This is basically made, it's got just about everything in there, and you can see there's a lot of them. This has got all the seals to do this. I was able to get this, or rather Carl did, and he brought it to me. Thank you, Carl. This is from Precision Cycle, right here in Winnipeg. And thank you Precision Cycle very much. These are available for about 70, 80 bucks. It's not a lot of money. The biggest part of the job is to tear everything out of there to get to these. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. I'm gonna try and keep this short and sweet, and we're going to use basic hand tools as much as we can. Those specialty pieces there, you will require them to do this job. There's no way around it. Now, if you're just doing, and a lot of times it is just this shifter seal that's leaking, you make a little puddle on the ground, and even the back of the primary, that seal you can get off without taking the main drive off. So if the main seal in the transmission is still good, you really don't have to take the main drive off. So you could basically do this job with basic hand tools right in the garage here. And like I said, I have a motorcycle hoist. We're going to try to do this on the floor and keep it simple, just the way someone would do this at home without all the fancy tools, you know. I learned to work on these. I had an old shovel, a 77, and I had a couple old Harleys, and of course I've got, you know, a few new ones, and I work on them too. And I've made mistakes, you know. Don't please be kind in the comments. I know there's some Harley mechanics out there that might be throwing the manual at the TV right now, but we're going to do this as simply as we can, something anybody could do. Don't be intimidated by undertaking a job like this. Just be thorough, take your time, and enjoy yourself. Well, let's go ahead and drain the oil. Yes, Punky, are you going to help? You're going to need that. Okay, I guess not. I'll do it then. Okay, Punky wasn't much help. We got the fluid drained. Now, to do this job, you don't need to take this cover off again. But I like to, just because it gives me something to hold on to when I'm removing it from the bike so I don't drop it on the floor or whatever. You can just kind of grab it under here, and if you might be a bigger guy than me, you get a good grip on it. You don't have to remove these to do this job, but I'm going to anyway. However, we will have to remove the floorboard and the shifter and a whole lot of other stuff. We're going to have to, as you can see, the exhaust system's braced to that. And as well, we have to get the starter on the back side off the case. So let's go ahead and take this cover off. Okay, there we go. I just put the bolts, these ones on this case here, well, on this cover, on the derby cover, they're all the same. Like I said, leave the top one loose and last, just so we can kind of grab it, walk away with it. Ooh, that went better than last time. Just put it on the floor there, just like that. The funny thing is, I reused this gasket last time, and at Harley, when I took it on the test drive, I thought that's what the leak was, and nope, that was dry as a bone. That didn't leak a drop. That gasket still holding together just fine. You can get these, they're pretty cheap. You should do them, you can do them every time you change the oil. If you can save them, great. We're just going to put all our parts in this little jars, keep them together. They're all the same for this cover, so can't get them mixed up. I can't believe it's not butter. Huh? I can believe it. It's 2021. Are you kidding me? And go ahead and start removing the shifters. There we go. These T-handles, I really like them. But you don't have to use them. As you saw last time, I just used the old L-shaped Allen keys. They work just as well. Now you'll notice this front one here has got a split in it. That's so you can spread them open and get them off the shaft. But 9 times out of 10, if you just line them up just right, and I mean just right, if you force it, you see right there, it'll lock right up. You have to take these completely out of the shifter, or else it won't come off of there. So don't just leave them in there like that loose. It won't come off. But if you line these up just right, I'll make a liar out of me here. A lot of times, they'll just slip right off of there. And if you have to, and very carefully, I want you to put a flat blade screwdriver in there. Just open it up a little bit. The split on the second one, the inner one here, or the outer one, depending on how you've put them on the bike. I've pretty much seen them in every configuration you can put them in. The split is on the upper part of the shaft here. Just same thing. You just put a flathead screwdriver in there. A lot of times, if you get them dead straight, they'll just slip right off there. If you put any pressure to them to the left or the right, they'll just bind on there and they'll be kind of stuck. Okay. Slide the back one off. I like to just take the bolt and just kind of start it in there. So you can see, keeps everything together. You won't mix anything up. take your parts, lay them on a piece of cardboard. And I like to do this on the floor. My reasoning is it can't fall if it's already on the floor. Take that bushing off on the shifter rod. This cover we will have to remove because we're going to be needing to adjust the primary drive chains after we've taken them off and reinstalled them on the bike. So we will need this cover off. Once again, we're going to go those in the, I can't believe it's not butter container. These are all the same size, so you can't mix them up. This case, however, is a little different from that. I believe these front ones are much longer. Some of them are long, some of them are short. Don't mix them up, and we'll get to that. Now the floorboard, and there are bolts, pins anyway, underneath there. And that's wishful thinking. The ones we want are way up in there and there behind this plate here, because we can't have this arm in the way. We won't be able to get the case off. Remove this floorboard. We got a big Allen key at the front, and that would be a 1/2 inch at the back. Let's just go ahead and get that off. The front one, kind of hard to get under here. Like I said, take your time, be thorough. Remember, we're doing this for our enjoyment, people. No need to get cussing. And there's our floorboard. Now guys, I'm not gonna lie, I did break down and get the motorcycle hoist out. It just makes it a little easier for you to see and for me to access the bike. But you can do it without, and I think we made our point there. So let's just carry on, shall we? Now guys, I want to show you a little trick here, if this ever comes into focus. Hello. Oh, jeez. Now, this is a split ring, or what you call a lock washer. You can see from being on the bike, it's pretty much flattened out. We want to reuse this, so I'm going to show you a little trick. As you can see, I've grabbed that right at the split there. I think it's a light causing the grief. Yeah, there we go. You can see it's pretty much flattened out. So what we can do, we'll grab that right at the split with a couple pair of pliers. Doesn't have to be vice grips. What we're going to do is give that a twist. There we go. There you go. Oop, come out of light here. Oop. And as you can see, that will lock back down when we tighten it up, and that bolt won't back off. And that's pretty important because this one's on the inside of the frame where you can't see it, holding the floorboard on. And you kind of want that when you're driving your motorcycle. Just a neat trick. Thought might help somebody out there. You really are supposed to replace these every time you take them off, but who's going to do that, honestly? As you can see, just taking the bolts, and I've just started them here. There's our big Allen key holding the floorboard on, and I do this as much as possible. It just keeps you from mixing up where they go, and it keeps the threads clean. Nothing's going to get in there while we're working on the bike. It's just an ounce of prevention. And there's going to be a lot of pieces off this motorcycle, so we want to keep it as organized as we can. It just makes it simpler during reassembly, that's all. Also, while we're here at the kickstand, you notice the spring's getting a little loose on the back side here. Well, thank you to Innovative Cycle. Yes, not Precision Cycle, it's Innovative Cycle. Sorry about that, on Logan in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Thank you for this awesome drag specialties replacement spring part for this kickstand. We'll be putting that on too, which is just great. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the outer case. And I like to break these free in the order that they go on the bike to try and keep the mating surfaces as good as possible and keep the case from warping any more than we have to. Now I realize this case has been on and off the bike several times. I don't know who did it or why, but I'm going to take as much care as I possibly can. And I may have to check the manual for this, but I believe the tightening sequence is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then way up to here, 7, then 8, then 9, 10, and that one's a drain plug and it's over there, so we don't have to worry about that. I'm going to double check that with the manual before we start. I've got a climber and a Haynes here somewhere. I'm going to have to go find them. Give me 1 second. Okay, cover's just about ready to come off, and I just want to show you here. Take this one. This is what I do. You'll notice this one is just slightly longer than the front one. So we don't want to mix these up. What we're going to do is I just take the brand new gasket we have for this case. I just put them like that. Next to the hole they go until I get the case off. And then I'll put them back in the case over there on our cardboard to keep them organized. Give me 1 sec. There we go. Case should be ready to come off of there. And it is. Ooh, that gasket doesn't look to be in bad shape either. I don't think it was leaking either. Oh. There we go. There's our case. This is our thrust washer for our jack shaft, or our starter. Where are you? There we go. Yeah, that tells me somebody's recently in here trying to fix this leak, because that thing's hasn't got a lot of miles on it, that's for sure. It's a good made gasket though. Okay, our cover's off. You can see our jack shaft for our starter. See our clutch. See our adjuster. Primary drive chains. This back here, that's our stator. Well, it's basically our alternator. That's our charging system for the bike. This little monkey here, that's, I believe, 150 foot-pounds of torque. I don't know what the braking torque is on it, but it's probably more than I weigh, so we're going to get to you in a minute. Right now, we're going to go to the other side of the motorcycle. We're going to disconnect the battery, and we're going to start taking the starter off. Back in a minute. Well, we're back, and I've got a new pointy finger. Now, when I say disconnect the battery, I mean disconnect the battery. What's happened here is I was going to disconnect the battery. I went in the house for a minute, got distracted, came back, started working on the bike again. And if you push this solenoid arm in, you can see how that actuates the jack shaft for the starter. Well, if the battery's hooked up, it'll turn the motor over. And let me tell you, you do not want to get your finger in between this gear and that gear, because it really sucks. Like I said, I've made mistakes, and that one's going to go in the book. Okay, so this time, let's make sure we disconnect the battery. Give me a second here. Okay, we've removed the box, the cap. Take this last Allen key out, get this cover off. There we go. Oh, and there's our battery. Disconnect the exhaust system right here. This fitting here. Remove it from the bike. Take off the covers. Starter solenoid comes off with this brace. See those bolts right there? You get them from the other side of the bike. The starter solenoid should be loose, and it is. And we're going to remove this right here. This is the pivot arm bolt. That's it right there. Get a better look at this. Right there. Now slide up the pivot arm shaft right there, right to this hole. This is why you have to take the exhaust system off, because it runs right over this hole. Give me a sec. Remove the pivot arm shaft. Put that right down. Nice soft rag there. Remove pivot arm. Be careful. On the newer bikes, these are asymmetrical. On these older ones, they're symmetrical, so you really can't mix them up. Remove this Phillips screw in the center of the cover. Move the cover. There we go. See that right there? It's just a dust cover. Now you can access this bolt that mounts the starter, the cable, and the other bolts a little easier. Let's go get these guys in here, and one at the back under here. You probably can't see it. It's under this hose here. There we go. Up under, right under there. And take the starter out. Keep in mind there's a wire back in there, and that goes right here on this bolt. We're going to keep these all together so we don't mix them up. Now remove the chain tensioner. Give me a sec. Okay, once you've gotten this bolt out, tensioner slides to the bottom and comes out. That's now loose. It's going to come off with the chain. We take off the clutch basket and the primary drives. You're going to have to break this bolt loose, and that's going to be fun. And this, I believe, is our reverse thread. I'm going to find out in a second. Give me 1 second. using this highly technical piece of equipment. Cut a block of wood about 8 inches long. I want you to wedge it in the teeth here. What we're going to do, take her, there we go. Oh, yeah, that's a tough one right there. Break this crank bolt loose. Okay, and on to the clutch basket. Give me 1 second. Woo! That's a lot. I'm going to remove the C-clip. And pull off this plate. In there is our reverse thread nut holding the clutch basket on. Give me a sec. We had to pull this clutch basket. Now it's off. And we're going to remove it and lay it over there on the cardboard. Let's do that. Okay. This all comes off as a unit. And there we have it. That is pretty much your entire primary drive setup right there, and compensator. Now, we fold down the tabs on these lock tab washers. We're going to try not to break them so we can reuse them. But if we do, we're going to have to get some new ones. So they're all opened up. Let's break the case in order. Let's do that now. Okay, we got all our bolts loose. Hold on.
Wasn't hitting the right spot.
We're going to leave them in there. Give the case a little tap tap with a rubber mallet. Get a buddy to help you. I got my friend Mike Graydon here. Hey Mike, whoa, that's good. That's good. Perfect. Now after removing your starter gear, we can remove the jack shaft. Just like that. There we go. And with that, a couple of bops. We remove our cover, leaving the bolts in it so we know where they go. There's our main drive. There's our charging system. There's our shifter. And that appears to be where the leak is coming from. Now with our inner primary case off, you see the main drive. And this is our locking plate. It keeps this big nut from backing off. We're going to take that off next. Okay, remove our locking plate. And now we're going to break that sucker free and get that main drive off and get to these seals. We're going to go ahead and put some black tape on these threads to protect them. And we're going to break this nut and remove this bearing race. Give me a sec. Okay, we black taped up these threads. Now we're going to go ahead, put a piece of PVC pipe to protect the shaft as well. And now our Harley Davidson socket. These are reverse thread. We're going to go ahead and break them loose and see if we can get the main drive off. Give me a second. Here we've got our main drive off. Gonna check the splines. They look good. They're really good on the bike. Of course, that's harder metal right there. This is our main 5th gear seal right here. And on this shaft, you can barely see it. That is actually a seal. And if you look, this one has popped right out. So this was our leak. This one is also wet. You can tell by looking at the back of the main drive. You can see it's kind of wet. It's not bad. This was more of a slow leak. This guy here was the culprit, and here you can see it's just soaking wet. I've added oil to the transmission so we can actually see where the leak is, and it is definitely this shifter seal. Basically all three are the culprit. We're going to replace jack shaft seals. We're going to replace the quad seal behind this guy, which is like in a little O-ring. We're going to do all of them. So give me a second. We're going to get this little one out right here. Oh, and first we have to pull the bearing race. And that's this guy here. This is where the bearing of the inner primary case rides on. We have to pull this bearing off this shaft. So give me a second. We're going to get the puller going. We've got our bearing race puller mounted here. Once again, thank you very much to everybody at Winnipeg Harley for letting me use this tool. It's about 5 in the morning now, and I'm going to have to return this before they open. So we got to get this done, get that seal out of there, and get the main drive back on. The rest of this I can do with the hand tools I have. Okay. Crank that. Bearing race just about off now. I got Mike helping me out, holding the other wrench. Thank you, Mike. And there's our bearing race. We're going to take this over to our primary case. That fits right in there. And as you can see, put it in there. There's no play at all, so we're going to reuse that. We didn't heat it at all. We didn't harm it. It's got some miles on it, but it's what we've got, and it's nice and firm in there. It's not loose at all, so that can be reused because it has to be. Okay, we're going to go after this seal on the shaft here. As you can see, this is one of the fending culprits. We're going to get under there with a dental pick, kind of rotate it, and just pop that right off of there. And there's the old one. You can see that is shot. That needs to be replaced. We'll just leave that hanging right there. And now we're going to get this guy here. Give me 1 second. Okay. There's our main seal. And there's our bearing on our main drive shaft. Okay. Behind the main seal, behind this race, it's very hard to see, but believe it or not, there's another one in here. And there she is right there. And that, my friends, is your quad seal. You don't want to miss that one. That one's right against the main shaft here, and it's pretty important. A lot of people miss that one. It's very hard to spot. But there it is. And we're going to change that one. We're going to pull that right out too with the others. So we now have all of our seals going off of there. Got all of our seals hanging off our drive shaft. Okay, give me 1 minute. And there they are. There's our shaft seal. This is our main seal. And this is our quad seal behind that. And this is our seal race right there. We're going to hold off on putting that on there until we get that quad seal back in here. Alright, folks. We've had a long night, but we're almost there. Well, not really. We got a long way to go. Who am I kidding? Okay, folks, now we're going to clean up these shafts. We're going to lubricate our seals. We're going to start putting them back in. Now we can get the shifter seal and the jack shaft seal later. But I've got to get this main drive back on so I can return this tool right here to Winnipeg Harley. And one more time, thank you guys for letting me borrow this. So let's get on that. It's almost opening time for Harley Davidson, so we got to get this done before they open. So these mechanics are not without their tool, so they can do their job as well. So let's get that done. First, new quad seal. Just give that a little dunk in the oil there. Get her nice and lubed up. Want that to slip on there real nice. Shaft's already clean. Very carefully slide that up on there. Should just go like a dream. There we go. And there's your brand new, nearly invisible quad seal. Next, the main seal. Well, first we got to put the race back in. Give me a second. Now we're just going to go ahead and put a little lube. On our race, just like that. A nice coating of oil, front and back. There you go. Nice and clean. Nice and lubricated. There we go. In the bike you go. Now we're going to go ahead and lube our main seal. We want to get this inside and out really good. We can wipe off the excess later. Get a good coat of oil on this. When the bike starts, we don't want this dry at all. We want it nice and wet, so when the shafts first start spinning, it doesn't burn it up and we're right back to square one in 5 seconds flat. So we want to get some oil on there. Don't be shy, we can wipe the excess off later. You get the top too, so it slips in real nice. We've already cleaned the seat, and we're going to go install it. Got all our parts laid out in order here. Unfortunately, we discovered a problem here right during installation. If you'll look, this new seal and this old seal, they're pretty close, but they're not the same size. So that's it for now until we can get some parts. I got to get these tools back to Winnipeg Harley. Once again, thank you very much for using them. They work great. I should have got the seals there. They might have been right. And thank you to Dr. Mike and Fernando, young doctor to be, for stitching me up and getting me back to work in a hurry. And words of wisdom for today: don't stick your finger in the starter gear, cause man, ouch. I'm not kidding, people. That really hurt. But thank you all for watching. I hope you picked up a few tricks there. I hope this is helpful to somebody out there. There's more to come. We just got to get some parts and, damn, clean up our mess once again with all the Allen keys. Oh my God, they're everywhere. Take care, folks. There's more to come.